want you to hear this because this is so disturbing. Mind you, I had my first child at 18. I got pregnant at 17 and birthed her at 18. Okay? But I just want you to hear this about these so called Republicans, MAGA Republicans. I can't even say Republicans, period, because I know a lot of Republicans don't think like this. I mean, the sane ones, let me just put it that part. That out there, but a lot of these ideas come from the manosphere. That's one, and these talking points come from these religio pastors who have been abusive to women and children, and this to them is a marketplace to push this ideology. And let me just give you a breakdown. She's going to tell you that these Republicans are talking about that it's a crisis because young girls under the ages of 18, between the ages of 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and beyond are not having children. They're being educated and they're not having children. And they call it a crisis because they're not having children. This is the same party that absolutely wants to cut out food stamps, housing, and things like that. But they want women to have, and young women who have no resources, to have children that they absolutely cannot afford. And calling it a crisis because they're not having children. I want you to hear this. And I love
Republicans know that abstinence-only sex education has been proven not to work, and that's why they want it.
6 million births a year. But the problem is teens and young adults. From ages 15 to 19, the fertility rate is down 7%, and it's down 70% over the last 2 decades, meaning we're telling people that are young not to have babies, to wait till they're in a more stable life situation, till they're more financially secure. Maybe they haven't found the right partner.
Yes, as a matter of fact, we are.
Okay, I want her to play in just a minute. But this is the same party that absolutely doesn't want to have they don't want food stamps. They don't want housing. They don't want medical for women and young girls. And these young girls and women have no resources, right? And have no insurance or whatever the case may be. But these same weirdo men want these young girls to have babies that they absolutely cannot afford. And they also want to have legislation that doesn't give them any type of resources. Make that fucking shit make sense. Let's listen.
Telling children not to have children. We are saying you should be financially stable before you bring a child into the world that you need to feed. Yes, find a partner who can help you raise that child, that you trust with that child. These are all very good decisions, and it is wild to me that they are saying this out loud. Stephen Miller's wife called it a crisis that teenagers are not having babies. I grew up in the 90s in purity culture, and the worst thing you could do as a girl would be to get pregnant. I would rather have told my parents I accidentally someone than that I had gotten pregnant. I used to get nightmares about pregnancy at 12. That's how demonized it was. Why is this? Because they've made it clear they're coming after birth control. But the reality is the reason they fight so hard for teen marriage, remember this guy?
Do you agree with the point of view that if we continually restrict the freedom of marriage as a legitimate social option, when we do this to people who are of ripe fertile age, and
they are fighting for abstinence-only education because they know it doesn't work. They're fighting for child marriage laws because they want teen girls getting it on, getting pregnant, even with adult men, and to be able to force those girls to get married. Because what they don't tell you, they're catastrophically crying out about this teen birth rate, is that most women still have at least 2 children by the time they're 45. The birth rate per woman by the time she's 45 is almost identical to what it was in 1990. We are not in a crisis. Women have more control of their lives, and they're having those babies later when they're able to take care of them. They are trying to limit birth control and demonize it through propaganda campaigns on social media, as well as promote teen marriage for two reasons: control via poverty and profit. In 1990, almost half of teen moms were in extreme poverty within 5 years, because when you get pregnant as a teen, you're less likely to go to college, you're less likely to get a good paying job, you're more likely to be dependent on a man and not be able to escape that relationship. Also, they profit off teen pregnancies. Mom and baby homes that are religiously affiliated have increased by 23% since the Dobbs decision. These homes have been known for abuse, manipulation, coercion, forcing young teens to sign legal paperwork without legal representation or right after they gave birth, threatening them with high repayment costs if they don't surrender their child. And then those mom and baby homes will profit by adopting that child out to a middle or upper class white Christian family and profit off the sale of those children from specific.
Definitely the Handmaid's Tale type of thing going on. And this is what has happened in the past, is that young girls in my mom's era and women beyond that were taken, if they got pregnant while they were in school, they would take them to these religious centers, and they would be birthing centers, and then they would take the child from the mother. So the mother wouldn't even get to keep her child. So if she was a young mother at 15, like they're talking about pushing these young women to have babies, what they did back then is they would take the babies and, like she said, give them to these neo-Christians and let the neo-Christians raise them. And we already know throughout history that a lot of these children are sexually abused and abused, period. And then these children are also used as labor in these households as well. So there's nothing good that's coming out of what that preacher that you previously saw, that white man, Nazi Christian pastors. There's nothing coming good from what they're pushing. There's nothing is good for these children that they're trying to bring into the world, period. And for these young girls.
White teen girls that they need pregnant.
Yes.
Christian nationalists.
So we've heard these talking points from the manosphere, and the manosphere demonized women, whether they got pregnant, whether if she had too many kids, they demonized her throughout social media that we've seen for over 15 years. If she didn't want to have children, she was called names for keeping her legs closed. And if she opened her legs and she was sexually active, then she was the whore. If she had kids and too many kids, they talked about her. So there's no winning for women with these men. So this agenda, it's scary. I'm going to be honest with you. And I am way beyond birthing years, but I feel very sad for young girls coming into this world who have to deal with this kind of ideology, and these people that are making laws that are not beneficial to them as young women.